So today I'm interviewing Ben Stockton, owner of our virtual academy. And it's really going to be about EV news and technicians and how it impacts workshop managers. But before we go into that, would you go into a bit about your background, like what inspired you to start our virtual academy?
Cool. Well, I think probably one of the things that inspired me to start our virtual academy was when I first got into training. I remember we used to spend weeks prepping and putting huge amount of effort into the research of the subject that we were delivering and usually writing the course. And then you'd run it for a number of times, but at best you might run it 6 or 7 times in a row. And then that course gets put down and you might not go back to it again, or you might possibly hand it over to someone else that delivers it in another year's time. And I always felt it was a bit of a waste because by the time you delivered it about the sixth time, it was about as good as you were going to get, or it felt like that.
Mm.
It was well delivered. You were second guessing what the questions were going to be. You'd got a good idea what the learners might need some additional support in. And if that sixth course had been filmed somehow or captured
Mm.
somehow, then that asset would be there forever. And I felt back then that video would be the solution to do it. The internet wasn't really ready for it, so we
I was
didn't.
just going to ask how long ago
Yeah,
was that video?
yeah, that would have been 2004,
Oh, right. Okay.
and a lot of garages didn't have good solid internet connections at that
Mm.
stage. I looked into it,
Yeah.
and we needed to wait a little while until the infrastructure caught up
Yeah.
to enable online training to be a thing throughout the motor industry.
Mm. Okay, so I did also see some, I think it was on your LinkedIn profile, that you've got a background as a mechanic yourself, and
Mm,
even Formula One. You want to tell a bit about?
yeah, yeah. Well, it was it was arguably the worst Formula One team in of all time. So
Oh,
I don't know if I can big myself up too much there, but yeah, I started off as an apprentice. I was extremely lucky. Won a cheap got a lovely apprentice program with my local BMW garage when I was 17, and absolutely loved it. Loved going off to college, Samwell College in Birmingham. It's
oh yes,
wonderful.
I know it well.
And yeah, towards the end of my time there, I was lucky enough to for our college lecturer one day to say there's a Formula One team that's been on the phone. If anyone's interested, you should go
Well,
down and have an interview. And
yes,
me and my me and my friend Lee went down, and they couldn't decide between the two of us, and they took us both on. And that was wonderful.
yes.
We both started off doing a little bit in the gearbox department. I moved into sub-assembly and just loved it. Yeah, it was a wonderful experience.
It must have been exciting. Whatever you say about the team, it must have been
Mm.
exciting as a young man to,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
it was.
yes,
It was still a very special place.
yeah.
It was still a very fast car with some very clever people working there.
Mm.
Beautiful engineering, and it was a bit like having a second apprenticeship in a row, really. We sort of did the first bit about road cars, and then the second bit was probably a little bit more about how to work on planes, I suppose
Yes,
you could call it,
yes,
and
yeah.
quality and
Mm.
what striving for perfection looks like.
Mm. So that really sort of sets the foundations then for our virtual academies training for automotive technicians and the rest of the staff that work in that environment. So from when the point you sort of put your first training course together, what do you think's been like the biggest milestone since? Has it been technology or something else, deliverables?
Ooh, well, milestone, bit of a tricky one, really. I mean, I don't know if I could quite call it a milestone, but electrification is a big deal, has been a big driver. Electrification has resulted in volume training solutions
Yes.
being required by large employers, and probably probably without that we might have struggled. So that would probably be the key thing. And
Mm.
I mean, spoke very briefly about these training courses where you put loads of effort in to learn the subject and then it gets forgotten about. Um, well, back in 2004, that was when one of my early projects was searching the Toyota Prius, and that was one of the very early vehicles that had got high voltage systems embedded onto them. So all the way back then, I was lucky enough to get a bit of a quite a lot of a heads up in
Yes.
the way the technology was
Mm.
going, and so that set us up very nicely for the electrification revolution that is taking place right now.
Mm. So I know you can deliver your courses face to face at your training premises,
Mm.
also online, and also if the numbers work at your client's premises.
Mm. Yes.
Have you found that any of those options are more favorable to the employer?
Yeah. Well, certainly, whenever an employer has got, 4, 5, 6 learners, then they very rarely hesitate on the idea of us running the training at their facilities, providing, of course, they've got appropriate facilities there. That's certainly popular.
Mm.
Um, Equally, online is very
Yes.
popular too.
Mm.
It's a I mean the some of the online suites that we've got are quite big. If you want to start learning the underpinning knowledge around something like an IMI level 3 in hybrid and EV maintenance and repair, um, it's about 12 hours worth of learning, of
Okay.
online learning there. So being able to conduct that learning in 15-minute segments each day
Mm.
is quite a efficient way of managing people's time to still get to where they need to be. And of course, after what we're talking, 48 days of 15 minutes.
Yes.
No one's going to be expected to remember every single bit that's gone on, but being able to sort of um, enter back into any of the different courses for the refresher
Mm.
is a winner. So yes, certainly employers are fans of that too. Plus, finally, we've got some people here today receiving some air conditioning
All right. Okay.
training, level
Mhm.
3 F-gas training right now, and
Mm.
it's a beautiful part of the world. So
Yes.
we do have a number of customers that just like coming out to this part of
Mm.
the world, stay in Shrewsbury overnight, which is a lovely town, and experience it as a bit of a destination training center.
Yeah. So you can really offer very flexible training options when somebody
Mm.
comes and says they need to train the staff, um, not just in EV technologies, but sort of any.
Oh yeah, electrics diagnostics, for
Yes.
example, it's all big popular
Yes.
subjects. Yeah, it's when we get a inquiry, it tends to result in me spending quite a bit of time on the phone with said customer
Yes.
or potential customer,
Mhm.
just to actually explain the sheer breadth of different options that we can do.
Mm.
And more to the point, for me to understand what it is that they're looking for, so I can make a sensible suggestion that works as well as possible for their business.
Mm. I've seen online that you often talk about training quality over just certification. Can you explain a bit more what you mean about that?
Yeah, yeah, I can. For me, I I think being able to understand how vehicle systems work and how to diagnose them is the job of a diagnostic technician. And to be able to do that, there is a very broad range of skills required, knowledge and skills required, and equipment for that matter. And getting to that point takes time. And that means time learning. And so when I talk about training quality over certification, what I really mean is like certificates are an important way of showing the standard that the learner was on the day of their assessments.
Yes.
But that assessment process can be quite focused.
Hmm.
And so it is perfectly possible for somebody to um, be taught to pass an assessment and taught a bit more, and have therefore attended a training course, and they pass the assessment, walk away with their certificate. But I don't think that's the same thing as attending a longer course that goes into more detail, more hands-on, more practical, more chance for Q&A. Um, because I think it's that additional time spent learning which increases anyone's chance of becoming a successful diagnostic technician. And so that's uh, that's my little mission in life, is to just try and get as much time with learners as possible, be it online or face to face, to give them their best chance of getting to where they, in my opinion, really need to be.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I've done sort of practical courses myself, you're quite right. It's quite possible to pass the test, but then come out at the other end and not be able to execute. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah,
that's what you sort of mean.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So pass the test and execute with the longer
Yeah, let's
course.
go for pass the test and execute. Absolutely.
No.
Execute, maybe I'm a little bit nervous of that word, but pass the test and do a good job.
Yeah. Definitely not electrocute, but yes, pass the test.
Yeah, definitely not electrocute.
Okay, so it's been a long time then. You've been in the automotive industry a long time. And I mean, I know in computer world things are changing all the time. So how do you ensure that our virtual academy, the training stays relevant when they bring out new
Mm,
technology in cars,
mm,
lorries and vans and all that kind of stuff? How do you make the training, the online, face-to-face, in-person training, relevant, but also keeping up with technology?
mm. Well, we live and breathe it. We all of the team, if ever we stumble across a new system that we haven't heard about before or researched before, then you can guarantee over your water cooler moments, as it were,
Yes, yes.
gathering around the kettle in the kitchen, um, we'll 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 talk it through, and then if it's something that we feel there's a good um, commercial need for, then we'll put the time in, and we'll hire a vehicle, get our hands on a vehicle one way or another, and strip it down, reverse engineer it, cross-reference as many different sources as we possibly can, and get to the bottom of how it works, and then make a course on it.
Mm.
So so there isn't any one source. There's multiple sources that we're always keeping an eye on, and we're always making a judgment as to whether that's going to be the next big thing. Um,
I mean, I've seen on your
mm,
socials, on your website, that you've just published an ADAS course. So I suppose that's responding to change in technology.
yeah. It's I mean, ADAS. I think the first vehicle I worked on with a meaningful ADAS system. I mean, you can call parking sensors ADAS, and
Yes, yes,
there's ADAS and there's ADAS in my opinion. But
yes.
it
Oh,
was
too much
2000,
ADAS, in my opinion.
2006 was
Yeah.
a vehicle we were doing a new car launch for. It was called a GS430. Wonderful vehicle, V8 powered, lovely, beautiful, and it got a radar on the front, and it got an interesting Lexus badge on the front. It wasn't the conventional Lexus badge,
Okay.
and we've got used to seeing many cars with a radar on the front having these different badges, and it had got a radar, and it was the first vehicle I drove that had got radar cruise control, adaptive cruise control, and I was unbelievably impressed.
Yes.
From that day forward, I always wanted a car that had got radar cruise. I
Mhm.
didn't always have one, but I wanted one.
Yeah.
Um, so point of the story is some of these, something like ADAS isn't a particularly new thing.
No. Mm.
But what is the case is that there is a lot of cars driving around on the roads that are not being calibrated. Excuse me, that are not being calibrated properly,
Yeah.
or at all.
Mm.
Um, and I think there's a lot of instances of workshops being concerned about doing a job and then saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, there's an extra £300 process that we need to bolt onto the end because your car's got ADAS,"
Right.
and it's a problem. So
Mm.
so what we were doing there is we didn't really write the course around the fact that the technology is new.
Mm-hmm.
We were writing the course around a problem that exists in industry and a solution to that problem, which roughly speaking, is
Yes.
making
That
sure
sounds
front of
perfect.
house
Yes.
understands ADAS properly, can
Yes.
communicate with the customers properly, and therefore um, sell and make
Mm-hmm.
sure that ADAS calibrations are being done as and when they should be.
Mm. It sounds a good way for a training company you have to choose the right time, I
Yeah,
suppose,
that's
as
right.
well.
That's right.
Yes.
Because training is slightly different to running a workshop.
Yes.
Is especially when it's online, is it's about volume problems,
Mm.
um, and filling the gaps that lots of people have, as opposed to filling the gaps that a very small amount of people have. Like for example, um, hydrogen fuel cell vehicles
Yes.
is there's quite a lot of places out there that have received government grants, invested tens of thousands of pounds, not hundreds of thousands of pounds,
Yeah.
in a training solution around hydrogen fuel cell technology, and yet the amount of vehicles on the road is tiny, and likely to stay tiny for the foreseeable future. And I don't know how organisations like that are able to get a return on investment. I suppose if it wasn't for the government grants out there, they simply
Yes.
wouldn't. And it's a
Yes.
shame the money's spent in that direction, really.
Mm. Well, talking about government grants, that brings us on to some EV specific um, questions. So, what do you think is the biggest challenge for technicians and those that employ them when faced with all
Mm.
the EV technology coming now into the workplace?
Yeah. Well, I um I can't say that this applies to everyone. You know, different employers, different technicians are different. But in my opinion, electrics, volts, amps, and ohms, understanding electrics in circuits is one of the subjects that is misunderstood by a lot of people in the motor industry.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the big hurdles around the electrification of vehicles, EVs, people being willing to embrace them. Because
Hmm.
if you've got any question marks around how a low voltage circuit works, as soon as you're being told to work on a high voltage circuit, then it all starts to get a bit more nerve-wracking. And the reality is once you understand the fundamentals properly, working with electrics is nothing to be worried about at all. So I would probably say that would be
Hmm.
one of the biggest hurdles to do with adopting electric vehicles.
Okay, so since 2004, how has our virtual academy then adapted to meet these additional
Mm.
demands?
Well, we made sure really that we can cover the lot. We Yeah, we put a lot of effort into making sure we could deliver IMI level 2 and level 3 guided learning hours online.
Yeah.
I think that kicked off at about 2018, perhaps around that sort of timescale. We rolled out a hybrid and EV awareness suite as well for non-technical people walking through the workshop. And then we did another suite that was designed very much for emergency services and roadside recovery and technicians
Hmm.
called Level 2, the hazard management of hybrid and electric vehicles. And that goes into some of the more nuanced areas regarding, chemical spills and
Hmm.
dealing with fire and vehicle submersion and towing and storage, vehicle handover processes. It's quite
Hmm.
a comprehensive thing. Um, and the final course that we wanted to make sure that we knocked out was a 4 day face to face IMI level 4 that we call EV Masters, which is very much around teaching people how to diagnose electrical systems on EVs.
So for EV masters, do you tend to get experienced technicians?
Mm. Yeah,
Uh,
we do. We
yes.
tend to get experienced technicians. It's always experienced
Yes.
technicians, to be
Mm.
honest.
Mm.
We wouldn't let a non-experienced technician attend the course.
Right. Okay.
And there's also a prerequisite for someone to have IMI level 3 hybrid and EV or significant experience or manufacturer training
Mm. Mm.
in that area.
Yeah.
We also do get quite a lot of learners that have already got a level 4, but
Okay.
perhaps they did that level 4 over just a couple of days or something like that,
Mm. Mm.
and then they come to us to hear a bit more of the detail. That's
Yes.
quite common
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. Um, this might be too big a question to completely answer here, but do you think that the automotive industry is doing enough to prepare the staff, not just technicians, the staff to work on electric and hybrid vehicles?
Yes and no. Um, yeah, yes and no would be my answer.
Okay.
Um, if you look at the figures, right, well, the last report I saw on the amount of technicians we've got in relation to the size of the EV vehicle park, we've got um, plenty
Yeah.
of qualified EV technicians right
Hmm.
now,
Okay.
and it'll be several years' time until that number goes negative.
Yeah.
Um, but why I say yes and no is I think there's a difference between qualified and truly competent. Um,
We're back to the
so
execution there.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's right. So that's where it's a slightly tricky one, because it's hard to know who knows what. But I suspect there's quite a few out there that are rocking a qualification, but still don't really feel as confident as perhaps they should do when working on some of these vehicles.
Hmm.
There's also there's also and some other angles as well. Actually, there's some of the systems that motor vehicle manufacturers are releasing are very hard to repair. That
Okay.
are a bit of a sealed unit. And so, I think as a wider industry thing, responsibility is we should make sure that these vehicles, batteries, systems are always made in a way that they can be stripped down and repaired, and we're not sending off big
Mm.
lumps to recycling centres or worse still, landfill.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I remember being taught how to change spark plugs and the oil filters and all that kind of thing. I wouldn't have a clue now how how to do that. And that's even if somebody showed me, I don't even think I could get into it.
Mm, yeah,
Obviously, it's not my job, but yeah,
yeah. No, I hear you. Is even the simple jobs aren't quite so simple.
no.
Um, you know, be it changing spark plugs
I don't even know if they
or
still have
even
spark
topping up
plugs
oil.
on electric cars. No.
Yeah, certainly on electric vehicles.
Yes,
No,
they
there's
must
no
have,
spark
I would
plugs.
think. Yes.
There's no spark plugs on an electric car. No.
So how would you see the training changing? Sort of what's coming up? What are you looking at ahead for automotive training, EV, AI? Is AI going to play a role in the training delivery, training creation?
Mm,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. AI is an interesting one. Um, yeah, it'd be good to see where it all goes. I mean, AI should, in theory, as long as the data in is good, be a very good tool for helping technicians diagnose. Maybe it's not helping them diagnose really. Maybe it's giving them a good clue as to where to look, and then diagnosis is the bit of the final step to
yes.
confirm
Yeah.
what perhaps AI is predicting might be wrong.
Mm.
So AI would be interesting there. AI could be very interesting in things like garage management and booking jobs in and allocating jobs to different types of technicians, things like that. You'd have thought it'd be good at that at some point in the future.
Mm.
But when thinking about it in the context of training, well, AI does play a part. I mean, AI plays a part in the area of technical research. Um, doesn't doesn't mean that you know you can open up ChatGPT and ask it to write a really good training course and
No.
out
No.
it comes. But you could ask it to summarize a certain set of standards or whatever if you haven't got time to read through 100 pages, which I've done many times. Understanding, I don't know, a European regulation or something like that, you can get some good heads up as to where it's worth
Mm.
applying your time and where it's less likely to be worth applying your time. So it's good from a time management perspective. Um, I think it's also going to be very good when it comes to translation. There's going to be a point when we're going to be able to put our videos into AI, and there's going to be a
I think you can do that now,
Spanish.
actually. Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
you can do it now, but
It's maybe not
how
technical
how
enough.
how
Yes,
good it is regarding some
yes.
technical nuances,
Hmm.
I'm not so sure.
Yes.
But I'm very much keeping a close eye on it because once we got that, being able to roll out OVA in multiple languages through the help of
Mm.
AI would be fantastic.
Yes.
Um, other other future technologies, maybe I'm unfair calling it future, but I think virtual reality is um
Yeah,
is is
I
going to
was gonna
start
ask you
playing
about that.
more and more.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got them over my shoulder there, haven't I? So
Yes.
yeah, I think VR has definitely got a place in the educational landscape.
Hmm.
It's a very powerful tool for certain things. Um, it can verify competence beautifully. So, so, yeah. So certainly, I'm not going to be taking
Mm.
my eye off the VR landscape, and we're going to continue with our software development program
Hmm.
in the background, and yeah, you'll see more VR as time
And augmented
goes by.
reality as well. Does that come into
Yeah, well,
play?
yeah. I mean, augmented reality and VR um, isn't a hugely different
No.
thing. Where when you can augment reality, it can mean different things really. But where it's particularly good is if you've got a piece of equipment and you're able to look at that piece of equipment, and then the augmented bit is able to come in and provide guidance on that piece of kit, or what to do, or what to turn, or what to undo, and things like that. But that would of course mean that you'd need the kit.
Yes.
So where virtual reality works for me is you don't need the kit. You just need the models to have been made. So that means you could deliver training on a very expensive piece of equipment to lots of people, and you wouldn't need to have purchased that very expensive piece of equipment.
Mm.
So I'm a big fan of VR, but AR has got a place, and I'm sure you could easily find yourself putting that expensive piece of equipment into an AR environment, into a instead of a VR environment, and it still does the same thing.
Mm. Yes. It's all about sort of really fast-paced, a bit like your Formula One background,
Mhm.
technology, all keeping up to. It's got to be fast-paced but reliable at the same time. So
Oh yeah,
the
yeah. I mean,
training, yes,
yeah, yeah. I mean, no matter what happens about pace,
yes,
commercial pressures,
yes,
um, what comes out will always be exceptional.
yeah,
That's it.
mm,
We've only got one job to do, and that's to teach people. It's not to get courses out as quick as possible. It's
yeah,
to educate.
mm,
And that is our focus, and that will
mm.
always be our focus, no matter what technology we're using.
Mm. So that sort of leads on to looking at the feedback from people that have attended your courses or people that have bought them for their staff. What's sort of your favorite type of feedback that you get that makes you feel we've done a good job? Um,
Yeah. Well,
Probably it's variable.
my yeah. Oh, It is variable. I mean, we had a lovely bit of feedback a couple of weeks ago at Auto Mechanica. Um, we were demoing a a high voltage isolation procedure on a plug-in Prius that had been VR'd,
Okay.
and we had a technician. I think he was a technician who got lots of experience working on EVs, and he put it on his head, and we let him play with it for must have been 2 hours.
Oh
It
wow.
was an
Yes.
epic. I don't think I've ever seen anyone embrace a virtual reality experience for so long. And and at the end of that, um, he said that he'd. I don't think I'm misquoting that he'd never experienced a training event as good as what he'd just done.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think everyone's going to say that, but when someone says something with such joy and
Yes.
passion
Hmm.
and belief in what they're saying, then it does give me,
Goosebumps.
well, extreme
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah.
It is lovely because
Mm.
we put so many hours into what we do, so much effort that when what we think is good is also being fed back to us by our potential customers too. It's
Validate.
very rewarding. It's
Yes.
lovely.
Yeah. Um, if someone was watching this online and they were thinking of investing in training for their staff, if they're a technical trainer, they own an independent garage, they run a fleet of vehicles,
Mm.
why would you say, in a short sentence, they should come to our virtual academy?
Training quality. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get uh, very strong customer support, and you are going to get courses delivered to your teams um, that will make a difference.
Hmm.
Um, and I include our online solutions in that as much as I include our virtual reality and our face to face.
So for the online solutions, you've got a free trial, haven't you?
Yeah, yep, that's right. Go to our virtualacademy.com.
Yeah.
Have a look for the free trial section on that first page,
Hmm.
and you can have a little taster. Oh, there's probably about I think there's a couple of hours worth of free training in there and 3 certificates.
Yeah, well, that's
Two,
brilliant. Okay. So you've just said your website. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
yeah, just go to our virtualacademy.com, and there'll be a phone number there. There'll be plenty of boxes to click to connect with us, and all of those routes in will go straight to my our customer
You're
service
one of you.
team and my mobile phone number,
Yeah.
my mobile phone, and we'll be back in touch as soon as we possibly can.
Okay. Well, thanks, Ben. It's been great to hear in more detail about the training that you deliver
Mm.
and wish you well on the rest of the training courses.
Thanks, Tosca. That's wonderful. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.